So a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses are leaving the organization, but it's not always who you think. Like, oh, that person was just flaky, that they were PMO. They didn't really fully believe, they weren't spiritual enough. No. Sometimes the most spiritual people. And I say that because Jehovah's Witnesses say that. So-and-so, brother so-and-so is so spiritual. Sister so-and-so is the most spiritual person I've ever met. Sometimes the most devoted, most spiritual people end up shocking everyone and disassociating or turning apostate. This literally happened to me several times from different congregations that I belonged to at the time. I thought, whoa, I never thought that person would ever leave. What happened? Here are the top 5 reasons why. Number 1, they're too well trained. So this is the most hilarious, ironic reason to me. Like Jehovah's Witnesses, you have to understand, they think they're geniuses, like top tier Bible scholars. The problem is when you train a bunch of people to read, study, force them to do public speaking, week after week, their entire life for decades. You just equipped them with the tools to dismantle their own ideology. Think about it. They pride themselves on cracking open their Bible. Granted, it's their version that they've tampered with, highlighting everything, hitting the books, doing all this studying and attending these programs, indoctrination camps, only to find out it's all bogus. The organization trained them to be these warriors of truth. And then everyone around them is shocked when that person weaponizes those skills against them. And for good reason. You're teaching me to seek truth. I found it. And of course, you're going to have smart, otherwise really smart Jehovah's Witnesses who mean well, who will buy it hook, line, and sinker. They'll die a Jehovah's Witness. They're always going to be hardcore witnesses. But I do think it's funny that some of the smartest, most studious among them are, the ones who end up leaving because their actual diligence, their honest research refutes the Jehovah's Witness doctrine, and the organization only has itself to blame. Number 2, Bethel. So this closely dovetails my last point. A lot of Jehovah's Witnesses grew up thinking that the headquarters, it's now based in upstate New York, it used to be based in Brooklyn. The Jehovah's Witnesses headquarters, aka Bethel, they were taught that it was the pinnacle to strive for, okay? The most spiritual place on earth. You have to understand, put yourself in a Jehovah's Witness shoes. This is in their mindset. This is their version of Harvard or Yale or some Ivy League school. For Jehovah's Witnesses, that's where the cream of the crop in their mind goes. They have schools, training programs, they get missionary assignments. They have something called Gilead Training School, and they have iterations and different titles over the years. They live dorm room style. The problem is, a lot of them who are the most spiritual get there, they end up seeing the corruption and hypocrisy at the top. I mean, any former Bethelites, you can leave a comment or your experience. There's heavy drinking, there's squabbles and congregation politics. It's not the angelic heavenly place that they were told it was, and they become disillusioned really fast. Number 3, new light. Jehovah's Witnesses, I'm going to use quotations for anyone listening, quote, new light is their version of, we fucked up, but we're going to try to convince you that God magically revealed some new information to us, imparted new information or wisdom that is helping us adjust our attitude or perspective. We have a new understanding. But really, we're just using this as an excuse to cover our ass, and you're going to buy it. Famous examples. Men can now have beards, grow their own damn facial hair. Women can wear pants. It's up to your conscience of whether or not you want to go to college, pursue higher education. When you have to understand that for decades, these were hardline rules that you did not break. The governing body made the rules, and you had to follow them or face swift, harsh punishment. And suddenly things you couldn't do for 50, 80 years or whatever is now suddenly acceptable. God changed his mind. Like I said, most of the congregation, most of the sheep are going to go, okay, leaders, okay, whatever, we're just going to do whatever you tell us to do. However, some of the most quote, most spiritual people will push back because these people are usually really highly conscientious, and they're going to be like, well, hold up. This was our narrative. Whatever that thing was, okay? This was the narrative. This is what we peddled and taught was truth. Immutable truth. You don't question it, and you sure as hell don't question us. Now it just disappears overnight, and we have a completely new position on this, and you're gonna punish me for calling it out? Now I'm the bad guy? In fact, I know I talk about elders not being your friends, because they're not. I'm not saying they're all evil dudes. A lot of them are. A lot of them are really shitty. But there are some elders, they think they're doing the right thing. They think they're leading the congregation. This is what they're supposed to do. They're called by God, blah, blah, blah. There are elders who have gone through this, where they didn't go along with the consensus of the elder body, and they were kicked out. Not kicked out of the organization, but they were removed from the elder body. They were listening to their conscience, and the head honcho, The Kobe, the coordinator of the body of elders, didn't like it. So, they didn't kowtow and they got kicked off the elder body. That does happen even at the high levels. And that's why I say, I don't think we clock this enough, that Jehovah's Witnesses are some of the earliest pioneers. And when I say pioneer, I mean it in the true sense of the word. They're some of the earliest pioneers of cancel culture. Their goal is to shame, smear, and shun you back into submission. And some people just don't take the bait. They exercise their powers of discernment. They refuse to be intimidated and they leave. Good for them. Number 4, CSA. So there are brothers who have left for this reason, have found out about the CSA cover-up and they disassociated, but it's mostly sisters. At least in my experience, personal experience, that's who I notice who left, and they told me that was the reason why. And again, when I say most spiritual, we're talking about like people who are high up in the congregation, spiritual pillars, all right, pioneer sisters. And pioneer in the Jehovah's Witnesses, that's a term meaning somebody who puts in tons of hours door knocking or standing at the carts. Again, people you would never imagine leaving or disassociating. They find out that the organization is part of this massive cover-up and they're absolutely appalled, disgusted, sickened, and a lot of them are mothers. You don't have to be a mother, but still, a lot of them are mothers and they're thinking, there's just no way. Couldn't imagine that happening to their child. Their humanity and maternal instincts kick in, and that's it. That's the last straw. They just can't align themselves or support an organization that doesn't protect children. Number 5, it just doesn't feel like God's organization. This is not always the most common reason, but in a few cases, I knew uber spiritual witnesses who eventually left because they explicitly expressed in these words, it didn't feel like God's spirit was there. It didn't feel like God's spirit was leading the organization. And of course we know that they're right. You see what I'm saying? That's an important distinction. It's not always necessarily a doctrinal issue or some CSA scandal or, some kind of drama that they experienced while serving as an elder, as a higher up that woke them up. That's not necessarily the thing. Dude, how bad do you have to be? So what usually happens is these people they tend to be converts. They were love bombed. They thought it was the truth. They had good intentions. They were really devoted for a while. These tended to be some of the most humble people. And then they said that something just felt off. They couldn't put their finger on it. And that's because it's not an organization led by God. It is a publishing company masquerading as a religion. Hoodwinking people. They chase a dangling carrot their whole lives. The leaders are pharisaical, hair-splitting hypocrites, and love is 100% conditional. Even though there's good, well-intentioned people in the organization, it is a total distortion of scripture, and what's sad is the real Christians can feel the difference. It's pretty bad. So there you go. These are some of the top 5 reasons why the most spiritual people that you never thought would leave end up leaving the organization. As usual, if this sounds familiar or you have another story, go ahead and leave a comment. During this holiday season, please stay safe. Hope you have a great week, and I'll see you soon.